this is like now paying the architect to do the drawings to build the building. So I want to round the horn, questions?
So this will get us a complete set of workable plans to go out to bid and not just the sketch.
Sorry, was that, what would you be ready for?
What are the expected plans to be completed?
So to get to the April planning board, they usually have to be submitted almost a month in advance, so they need to get started on this now, so that they can have all the drawings and everything prepared, so by the end of March, beginning of March, we should have the drawings and everything prepared, and then it's a first draft, right, you submit it to the planning board, their engineer reviews it, they'll come back with some comments, and then once we have those comments, then we can make those adjustments, and then also submit to the county for the stormwater management. That's basically the time frame. Basically, if we go on this time frame, he has the planning commission meeting April 1st. Be ready for that. Revised township drawings between April 2nd and April 18th, and then by April 26th, we'd be able to get to the county's DS proposal for the county review, and then have a second meeting with the planning for the county for the township in May. So it's basically first submission in April, review based on the comments in May, and then I should still work with the county. Board of Commissioners for approval potentially in June. Second meeting for the actual board meeting, and then we hope that if we proceed on this time frame, we can have county approval and the township approval by September, if we start the process now.
Okay, that timeline is in any of the attachments.
No, this is attachment that I just got from
Can you,
text.
and just, yeah, if you can,
Well,
forward that to us, please.
Yep, we'll forward it to you.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
I have no questions, seems like the appropriate step.
Sorry. Maybe, I'm sorry. Jay? Steve? Public?
I just had a general question about the timeline. When is the field expected to be built?
Well, the board has not made a decision to actually confirm building the field or not. They're still in the anticipation stage. The earliest it could be built, if we got approvals in September, and if we had a good fall and could do construction, it could potentially be available for spring of 25, but that'd be the earliest. But no decision's been made to procure it yet or anything. So that would be the earliest, but the board still would have to make a decision, one, to do it, and how quickly to do it. Like I said, still the planning phase.
So before Valley's roof.
Is that?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, that's like I said, that's the most expeditious, earliest possible timeline. But I mean, we're a long ways from even making that decision at this point.
Yes, sir.
Another two-part question. Well, more of a statement, but I haven't seen any documents related to this posted on the board doc website, so why has that not been done? And second, why, again, was this not considered back when we were building this high school?
It was considered back when we were building high school, but it just didn't fit into the scope at the time.
Any particular reason why it didn't fit then, or?
That's,
I can answer
Like,
that.
why now and not
When
then?
they designed, when we went to the designing of the high school now, with the fields around it, there was an agreement, because at the current time at the old high school, we had an agreement with Harleysville baseball. We were taking our kids, the players, over to Harleysville, at the old high school. So in the design of the new high school, we were just gonna continue that plan. And there were practice fields, but, as time goes on, we're now, 15 years into this high school, that, things change. Now we're finding out the multi-purpose field is just not for baseball, it's to accommodate all our sports. So things have changed. It's like, when you outgrow your house, you add an addition. So we've outgrown some of our fields. Okay, and you also understand that when originally went to build the new high school, there wasn't a pool. The very first plans didn't have a pool, and that changed. So feedback from the public all came in and it changed that, so that's where we are today with that. Okay.
the township was supposed to build a baseball
But
field
field for us.
across Alton,
Mhm.
in that field,
That
and then
never
never
happened.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. But also to follow back to the first part, why are these documents not posted on the board doc website for the public to see before tonight's meeting? That's what the point of that whole board doc site is to do. Other districts utilize it for that reason.
So we've been discussing this field and these proposals since March of last year. So we've had many presentations on the field. We post documents the way we've been posting for years, and it's not been any different than what we've done to past practice. So it's just what we've done.
Okay, it's not very transparent, and the most dangerous words in history are, that's the way we've always done it.
Well, what I'm saying is we've had many presentations publicly, and people are more than welcome to come, and anytime anybody's asked us for these documents or presentations, we've been willing to answer any questions we've had. So this is a new issue that's been brought up as an issue.
I've sent maybe 3 or 4 emails about it, and most recently I sent one this morning, and I still haven't got a response about any of it, so. Just put it out there.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ron mentioned, public feedback leading to the creation of the pool, so I feel it's my duty to keep bringing up for, public feedback on our ventilation system. The swimmers, the water polo players are experiencing very high levels of respiratory distress. Kids are falling down at home on their floors at night, needing asthma inhalers to get up. And I really do appreciate the coach and Mr. Stanton, how quickly they were getting back and addressing the problem, but addressing the problem seemed to be mostly talking to the swimmers and divers who were complaining and just checking in with them. So my feedback on this would be, we need to do something better for our students. We have people that don't want to come and swim in that pool, teams that refuse to come and visit and play there, students that are near crisis levels for their breathing symptoms. So if we can build this, we should be, that's small.
No. We appreciate your comment back, and the administration will look into this.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Did I hear correctly that this doesn't cost us anything, the plans?
No, it's gonna cost us, if you kind of, it's $175,500.
To get the plans?
Just to get the plans, correct. That's part of the original, our original amount.
So, but you have, I'm sorry, I'm gonna jump onto that. So there's no definite plan to build the multi-purpose field, but we're gonna spend $175,000 to get the plan that you may or may not use?
Unfortunately, you have to spend money to figure out, can you move forward with the project?
Okay, I'm just a little confused because I thought the presentations that happened in the fall talked about not spending taxpayer money somehow.
I think what you're referring to, Alex, is the couple comments made by Wisnowski and some others were specific that our debt service reduction next year was because of the planning and the accelerated debt service. If you look at what we're doing for capital expenses, which is the next 3 schools, if you look at if we add these fields to that, whether we added these fields or not, you as a taxpayer, myself as a taxpayer, would pay a certain amount of money.
Okay.
The fee would be I would say non-starter. It would not have a net effect on your taxes based on the
Okay.
debt service. I think that's what you were referring to.
Yes.
To further the question, or you were asking if I heard you correctly, to further your question, I appreciate your question about why are we spending the money to do something we may or may not do. To Dr. Gallagher's point, is part of the process, but not as a board member, but as a parent that pays taxes in the district as well. Without those drawings, I don't know, is it $1 million, is it $7 million, is it 4.8? We will get all that through the drawing process. So we would be somewhat shooting in the dark, in my opinion, to say without those drawings, we would be approving a process that or a project that we really don't know what it costs or doesn't cost. So this would be the next step in furthering that process.
Okay.
If I heard you correctly.
Yes, thank you, that helps. I guess my question would be, have you been in contact with, who is it, Quakertown, PV, or any of the other districts?
All of them.
So
yes.
that, and did they tell you how much they spent?
There's a budget, but again, you don't know, you have a budget of X.
Yep.
Until we get the drawings, we don't know if the budget X is going to work.
Right.
It may come in lower, it could come in higher, until we actually have it. So we have an idea of what it's gonna approximately cost, but we don't have hard numbers.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
And to follow up on that real quick, as far as how things are funded, you have your operating budget, which is what we talked about earlier for revenues. We'll talk about when you approve annually is your annual operating budget.
Right.
How you fund capital improvements is typically through debt, right? Because we can't save up a bunch of money. The state won't allow us to save millions of dollars to pay for things in cash.
Right.
So we issue debt. And so we have a budget in our operating budget called debt service, right? So even with the 3 renovations coming up, even with this roof repair that we didn't anticipate doing now, but we anticipate doing in the future, even with this potential ball field or any of these projects we're going to talk about tonight, even if we do all those things, our projected debt service going forward will be $2 million less than it was this year. So we're not saying it doesn't cost anything, we're saying that it will not increase your operating budget, therefore that portion of operating budget will not increase your taxes. Your taxes still may increase, right? But for other things, the increases in special ed salaries and benefits. But we're saying that based on our current budget now, we'll spend less on debt service, even if we do all these projects, even with the addition of this, roof replacement. We can fund all these things, and our debt service will be less going forward than it has been this year.
Okay. Can I just, one point that you made there, I had a quick question. So I know you guys had a plan for sort of capital projects going forward. Where was the roof for Valley on that plan?
2027, range.
So at the edge of what they said that you could get out of it?
Within that range,
Okay.
the 2-year range.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Being an ex-softball player, talking here, have you also, and I know this probably isn't in your plans right now, but are you considering because turf is harder than grass. It's harder to maintain sometimes. It's rough on the students' legs. Have you thought of any of this when you said, oh, let's get turf?
So this is actually a recommendation from the athletic department of, there's give and takes of both, right? Obviously, in the February and spring, when you have in February and March, when you have heavy rains and a grass field might be saturated and muddy and you can't use it outside, you have to practice in the gym. With a turf field, you have greater availability to be outside the next day on it, right? So there's give and takes, there's pros and cons to both. But this would be turfing the softball field, the varsity softball field. The JV field right next to it would still remain grass. So they'll have the ability to practice on both as needed or dictated by the athletic department. But this has been something we've been talking about for a year now publicly with the athletic department and everybody, and this is the general consensus of the direction they want to go. Obviously, you're going to find pros and cons, supporters, opponents of anything we do, and that's why it hasn't been finalized, decided, but there's been enough interest throughout to say, let's get the information and do the feasibility. The feasibility study showed it can be done. We're seeing a trend throughout the region that more districts are converting to turf fields because of the usability, right? Maybe it might not be perfect.
The MLB is converting some of them back to grass because of the injuries due to athletes.
We would love to have Citizens Bank Park in our district with a grass field. Unfortunately, the ground crew they have, we couldn't possibly afford the district, but I agree with you. I'd love to have that, but that's not something that we could maintain to that level. But, we're looking at all the options. And also there's also the potential in the grass field down below for baseball too. So we're looking at having both options available for both softball and football, baseball, and then having the options for turf practice for multiple sports, field hockey, soccer, lacrosse. It's once again maximizing our availability and usage for students.
Because I believe it was Cheltenham, I'm sorry to cut you off, sir. I believe it was Cheltenham, they did it in 2000, I want to say 3, they added turf for the track and field. And I remember it was early stages of turf, but it was really hard to run on. So, and also with the weather changing and the soaking of everything.
Well, thank you for your feedback. We
Technology's changed.
Technology from 2003 to it's 20 years. You look at you just look at you're bringing up, you hear about the old turf at the vet to the new turf at Lincoln Financial. So there's huge, the technology's there, so.
Sorry, this is my last question, I promise. Is part of this proposal or the architectural workup that is being done include the field that Dr. Verano was talking about that the marching band practices on? He had said that, that if it were up to him, that would be the first thing that we turfed.
So the comments we've had internally actually said, would the marching band have the ability to use it? And it could be used at the discretion of the school district, the athletic director, and the high school principal.
For them to use this field?
They can determine to use it, but also they'd be able to use that, but also the softball field would be turfed. And if there's enough space on that, I don't know if there would be or not, there'd be availability. But it would give more than double the turf time available for all of the potential sports. Currently, marching band can't get on the stadium field because we only have one turf field. So it would greatly increase the ability. So, who would manage that control if that's still going to be true?
I also told Dr. Verano and Mr. Stanton to look into getting them on our current turf field more often.
Say again, sorry.
I have talked to Dr. Verano and Mr. Stanton about getting the band on our current turf field more often.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Yeah.
That should be a thing.
Yeah.
Just saying, because I I frequently am at the competitions at well, not just for Souderton, I have other schools too, and most of the schools do have turf fields, and from personal experience, back at the old high school, for example, our practice field was literally a mud slick within the end of band camp, and then having to go to schools that had turf fields, it was a huge disadvantage for us. And that also is something I've experienced recently in drum corps with fields that are 2, 5, even 20 years old. So that does help build consistency. So I'd like to see more effort to get them on those fields.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we okay to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes, okay, good. Moving on to